So, Sam Darnold is the Seahawks' new quarterback. This offseason has been nothing short of a roller coaster, and it's ended up with the Seahawks signing Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100 million contract. So let's dig into the tape. We're going to discuss what Darnold brings to the Seahawks, and we're also going to talk about what I think is the real reason why they moved on from Geno Smith. We have a lot to get to, so let's begin. We're going to start with the foundation of Sam Darnold's game, and that is attacking over the middle. Let's look at this play. This comes from the first quarter against the Jets. The Vikings are in a really sweet formation. Most coaches call this twin wing. You have your two big-time receivers aligned to the same side and a pair of tight ends in line on the other side. The concept here is just dagger. Addison is running a deep clear-out route to take care of the safety, and Jefferson is running an 18-yard dig route to attack the void over the middle of the field. Here the Jets are running cover 3 match. Unlike traditional spot drop cover 3, here the corners have rules to match on to the vertical routes in front of them. Often this ends up just being like cover 1 down the field with man-to-man and one free safety with zone defenders underneath. It's really not a great look for this concept from the Vikings. You're going to have to layer the ball over the underneath defenders and place it away from the man coverage defender. This entire play from Darnold is simply textbook. This is a play-action fake with a 7-step drop. Once he hits the top of his drop, he quickly climbs back up in the pocket to protect himself from the pressure around the edge, and then he delivers the ball. The velocity, the anticipation, and the accuracy are all really impressive on this throw. It's an absolute dime deep down the field. This is an encapsulation of Darnold's best plays. He opens up the deep middle of the field with his blend of arm talent and accuracy. This is what makes Darnold such a great fit in Kubiak's system, driving the ball deep down the field off of hard play-action fakes. That is how these Shanahan systems play explosively. Darnold finished 4th in the NFL in big-time throws last year, and it's plays like this that show why. Here's another great example of Darnold operating over the middle of the field. Against the Packers in Week 17, the Vikings are running a 3-man route combination to the field side out of this trips bunch. The goal of this concept is pretty simple. Justin Jefferson will run towards the underneath defender and pull him to the outside, while Addison will keep the corner and the safety occupied. That leaves Jalen Nailor a lot of room to operate on this over-the-ball route. The processing here from Darnold is really nice. As we can see from this view, his eyes help pull the zone defenders away from the middle of the field, and then he comes back to rip the ball to Nailor. This throw is away from the near defender and perfectly placed to allow the receiver to turn upfield. This is what it takes to thrive over the middle of the field, and Darnold absolutely has that. I also think that Darnold's pocket presence is underrated, not in every area, but let's talk about it. When Darnold is facing pressure that he can see, and if he has an escape lane, he's pretty good under pressure. Darnold is athletic enough to move around the pocket. He's by no means the most dynamic quarterback, but he can extend plays from within the pocket. Here, in probably his best play of the season against the Seahawks, he does a great job of avoiding the pressure and then throwing this dime down the field. When he's operating in space, the athleticism really shows up, and his pocket presence is actually pretty good in those situations, but we'll come back to that. At the end of the day, Sam Darnold is a perfect scheme fit. He is aggressive over the middle of the field, he can make every throw in the book, and he has solid enough playmaking and athleticism. His tape is pretty good, and he has the production to back it up. So why did he only get $33 million per year? Why isn't he paid like one of the top quarterbacks in the league, like his production might suggest? We're going to get to the 2 games that everyone wants to talk about in just a second, but first let's go through some more general weaknesses for Sam Darnold. I think the biggest one that we need to talk about is he is going to throw a fair amount of picks. Darnold's turnover-worthy play rate last year was 3.7%. For reference, Geno was much lower at just 2.6%. The way that Darnold puts the ball in harm's way is really similar to a lot of Shanahan-style quarterbacks. He is going to be aggressive over the middle of the field. And while that is what you love about him, it's going to put the ball in danger. There are certainly times on tape where he misses the underneath linebacker and the ball gets picked. That's just a part of his game, and it showed up all season. But now let's talk about those two final games. Prior to Week 18 versus the Lions, I, like most people, thought the Vikings would bring Darnold back on a massive contract. But those next two games cost Darnold a ton of money. So what happened? I went back and I watched both of those games because they did highlight the deficiencies in Darnold's game, but they also highlighted different problems. The Lions game was all about accuracy. I have a bunch of tape, but here's the stats to back it up. Sam Darnold had a bad throw rate of 15% last year per Pro Football Reference. Across the league, that is slightly better than average, with rates ranging from Geno Smith at just 10.4% to Anthony Richardson at 28%. So 15% is pretty good. And in fact, if you look at his specific game logs, prior to Week 18, he never had a game with a bad throw rate higher than 23%. Against the Lions, Sam Darnold had a bad throw rate of 34%, and that does show up on tape. The accuracy that we saw all season just completely disappeared. Darnold couldn't hit anything. And I don't know what to tell you. There's not really any easy excuse for why this all went wrong. There are some plays where you can point to his feet and he didn't set properly, but there's just other plays where everything looks great and the ball is off its mark. Darnold just missed throw after throw, and that is what cost the Vikings the 1 seed. Then you jump forward 1 week, and against the Rams, they expose a different weakness. And this time it is Darnold's pocket presence. I will give credit to the Rams defense. They had a great game plan. Throughout the game, they played with sticky coverage and used blitzes, stunts, and simulated pressures to keep Darnold uncomfortable. We can see this from his very first drop back against the Rams. Los Angeles begins in this nebulous but threatening look, and they drop back into cover 1 double 18. That double 18 part means they are doubling number 18 on the Vikings, in this case, obviously Justin Jefferson. The coverage across the board is really sound, and the Rams' pass rush just dominates the Vikings' offensive line. And this is where the pocket presence concerns show up. Yes, when Darnold can see the pressure and he has space to react to it, he can maneuver the pocket pretty well. But when that doesn't happen, he can be really bad in those situations. Darnold doesn't have the natural feel for the pocket to keep the play alive when he can't see the pressure and when there isn't space. Here later in the game, Darnold is trying to work this Y-cross concept, but again, he's met with sticky man coverage and the Rams are able to get home. Sam Darnold took the 3rd most sacks in the league last year, and a big reason is plays like this. He struggles to operate in a tight pocket, and he often holds on to the ball for way too long, like we see here. I can write off the accuracy concerns that we saw from the Lions game. I have to say that was just a fluke, and I will defer to the season's worth of tape that says accuracy is not an issue for Darnold. But the Rams game was not really an isolated incident. Darnold doesn't have the pocket presence that it takes to just be a drop-back passer. Last year, Geno was that drop-back passer. Grubb consistently asked him to make quick decisions from the gun while standing behind the Seahawks' porous offensive line. And you know what? Geno handled that pretty well. Geno does have the pocket presence to manage those tight and complex situations, and Darnold just lacks that. You cannot base this offense around a drop-back passing game with Sam Darnold at the helm. If you can keep him in the deep play action and bootleg world, he's a great quarterback, but you can't ask him to drop back from the gun 40 times a game like you could with Geno. So to me, replacing Geno Smith with Sam Darnold puts the pressure on Clint Kubiak and John Schneider. To get the most out of Sam Darnold, Kubiak needs to do a great job in designing his concepts. This offense needs to stay on schedule. With Geno, you could ask him to produce with quick game concepts, and you could really put more on his plate, but that is not the same with Sam Darnold. I'm not saying that Darnold doesn't offer anything or he's some bad system quarterback, but he does need the system to be successful. He's just a more limited player in what he can do. And to go along with that, this also puts pressure on John Schneider. I'm not going to comment on the free agency moves or lack thereof. That's going to be a separate video, but this roster has to be better. Darnold can absolutely work, but that offensive line needs to be much improved. That is non-negotiable. If you set everything up for Darnold and you can keep him in his comfort zone, then I do think he could be better than Geno. The way that he consistently attacks over the middle of the field is really impressive and perfect for the system. But if you can't keep him in that comfort zone, then this could get really ugly here for Seattle. So I do have one more question before we get out of here. Why did the Seahawks make this move? To be clear, I think Geno is the better quarterback. He's more flexible and he offers a much higher floor for this team. He somehow carried that miserable offensive line to become a decent offense. I don't think that Darnold can do that. So why did the Seahawks trade Geno and replace him with Darnold? Based on my read of this situation, it comes down to timelines. Per Bob Condotta, the Seahawks apparently offered Geno a 2-year extension that would pay him between $40 and $45 million per year. That is a competitive offer. Geno would have gotten a $20 million per year raise over his last contract, but that wasn't good enough to get it done. I've heard some people speculate that Geno just wanted to be with Pete Carroll, and I do understand that argument, but I have a different theory. I think that Geno really wanted the Seahawks to commit to him, and a 2-year extension still doesn't do that. And you know what? Geno deserves a team to commit to him as their franchise guy. Every single quarterback who is better than Geno is treated like a franchise quarterback, and plenty of quarterbacks who are worse than Geno still get that treatment. I'd bet he wanted a 3 or 4 year extension that would fully commit the Seahawks to him, something similar to what Kirk Cousins got last year. Geno turned down Seattle's offer without giving a counteroffer, and I think that's because he felt disrespected. Yet again, the Seahawks were not committing to him long term and trying to keep him around on a year-to-year basis. And so Geno was out. He requested a trade, and John Schneider realized this deal wasn't going to get done, and he made the trade. For as big of a Geno Smith fan as I am, this comes down to the timeline of the team. The goal for John Schneider, at least based on my read of the situation, was always to be competitive for the next 2 years with a veteran quarterback and this new young core group of players. Then, as that core group starts getting paid, hopefully you'll be ready to move on to a young quarterback with great support around him. That is the path to being competitive for years to come. And giving Geno Smith the commitment he was looking for would have changed that entire plan. Now you'd be looking to get the young quarterback in there maybe a year or 2 later, and you would have to navigate paying your young stars like Witherspoon and JSN while having the veteran quarterback on a big contract. I'm not saying that's impossible to do, but Schneider's non-negotiable was being able to get out of his quarterback contract in 2026. And if that is how it went down, then I understand this move. Geno would have changed your timeline, and the signing of Darnold doesn't. You'll easily be able to move off of this deal after 2026, and I think you'll be able to compete in the time being. It's been a wild week of news for the Seahawks, and I will have a full free agency film breakdown and grades video coming soon, but at least this move seems logical to me. It's not what I want. To be very clear, I wish that Geno would have taken the Seahawks' 2-year, $90 million deal. I think that would give the Hawks a better chance to compete over the next few years. Because I also don't think that Darnold has franchise quarterback upside. I don't think we'll ever be talking about him getting a top-of-the-market extension and getting that full commitment from the Seahawks. The weaknesses in his game are just too pronounced. But I understand the process that the Seahawks are committing to, and I really do think they could be legitimate contenders in 2025 with the right finish to this offseason, but we'll see if we get there. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Go Hawks!